Hi, you guys. I was on time for this one today. I'm actually early. Hi. So I am pulling up my notes. Hi, you guys. Hello, Maria. Let's pull up these notes. So I got kicked out. Ooh, hi from Haiti. I got kicked out of my husband's office, so I can't have to do this from my bed. Hi. Thank
Hey,
you for buying. Look, somebody bought a badge. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but thank you.
that's all. We have someone from Haiti that's watching. Shout out, shout out. So if you have questions or you want to give a comment, questions or comments, please put them into the chat box or the question mark box. Questions or comments in the question mark box because it will be so much easier for us to question mark box to actually answer questions in that way.
Look at John.
So
Hello.
I don't think I can. I think you have to pin the comment
Okay,
because I can't.
let me find
Hey,
it.
hey! Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I am excited to do this. Hey, thank you to do this with my big sis. You know, I was talking to your parents, and your mother. She was like, "You got to go on it, and you got to go on the app. How do you go on the app like this? Like, how you do it?" And then your father was like, "Yeah, I saw your what you called it, the flyer. I saw the flyer." I was like, "Okay, Daddy, you know how to get on?" No, no. But I just want you to know I saw the flyer. I was like, "Okay, thank you for your support. I appreciate you." But we are going to talk about imposter syndrome today because it is something that, especially for women, plays a major part in how we just go about life, how we do things.
Yeah.
So before we even start, I just want to give y'all a stat that I saw because I think this is relevant to the conversation about women and men and the differences between women and men. My sister and I have both taught in education. I was in elementary and then middle school. And one of the biggest things that I saw was just how girls are treated when they take risks and how boys are treated when they take risks
Mm-hmm.
and how we are socialized not to take risks. And because we're socialized not to take risks, simple things can seem like monumental things when we decide to step out and do something. Like for us, we both decided to become full-time entrepreneurs this year. So shout out to us.
Yes.
Shout out to us. And how big a thing that was, even though within our family, we've had entrepreneurs. Like our grandmother was an entrepreneur. She was the candy lady
Yes,
in
you.
Baltimore. And and that was something that for us was it was something that was there. It was always there. And so that is something that we don't really think about is that we see it every day. We see women who are doing the damn thing every day, but we just can't seem to think like it can be us. So we're going to talk about that. What does that look like when you get out of your way and you start to think about what imposter syndrome looks like in your life, like identifying it. Sometimes you can't identify it because you think that it's something that someone is hating on you, but it's you hating on yourself.
That's what it is. It's that self-talk.
Hmm. And
Yes.
so, go ahead, love.
No, no, no. That was.
And I was going to say with that, one thing that I remember is them saying that if a man sees a job and he has 60% of the qualifications, he
Mm-hmm.
will go for that job. But the woman has to have 100%, I maybe even say 110% of the qualifications for that position. Even though she may be overqualified for it, she still believes like I just need to have one more certification. We know black women do that. Black women will have 5 degrees and still be like, I'm gonna go get one more. But
Right.
that's just what we do.
Feel like
But
they can apply for something.
Yes.
Let's give me the definition, the formal definition of imposter syndrome. So it's an internal experience, which so many people say, like, they know it's something inside, but they can't name it. So it's an internal experience of believing you are not as competent as others perceive you to be. So it's like this perception thing that goes on in your head when you're in a space. And in business, I see it constantly. Like, I work with a dynamic group of entrepreneurs, men and women alike. And what I constantly hear reiterated is, and they can have a flawless portfolio, and you'll hear the self-doubt come in. And I'm like, but hold on, you just did a $1,000 party for 5 kids. You know what I mean? And it's still there, and it still resonates. And I often wonder, like, why is that? Why is that? Or like, what is happening that this doubt creeps in when you're doing your thing?
I think a big part of that, like I said, is how we are raised. I think that goes across all cultures when it comes to raising girl children.
Yeah.
Is we are the helpers, we are the helpmates, especially if you're the oldest daughter, you are the helpmate of everybody else. So you're used to helping everyone, and that validation that you get first from your parents, and then from your significant other, and then from the world alike. Those things really play a part in how you feel about yourself, and you internalize those things.
Mm-hmm.
And because you internalize them, they, like you said, they become your voice in your mind. Like, your first voice is your parents' voice. And that voice, depending on if it was a negative voice, that becomes your voice, that voice in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's this, and I don't want to necessarily call it self-sabotaging, because like I said, there are successful women who I, get, and they're not self-sabotaging necessarily, but they're still talking themselves out of opportunities. This idea that we often hear of having a seat at the table, so to speak, right? And I know for myself, there was no table. There was no whatsoever. So it was me bringing the table, bringing these little petite seats, and just being in the space, like taking up space. And whoever came to the table along the way, they could pull up. But I feel like so many people cut themselves off at the knee and don't make their own table, or don't take the time to just, step out on faith and create those opportunities.
I think a big part of that is what I like to call having to fuck it in your system.
Yeah.
Because
we got
when you gotta have to fuck it in your system. Like, that's what I got in my system. Because you feel as if you need to have, like we said, that validation. You feel like you need to tell someone that you are doing a good job. But the opposite side of that is we are told to be humble, especially having, in the world where girls are nice, girls are pleasant. And if you are disruptive, there's something wrong with you if you are that way. And it's like, I think the phrase is like, I ain't even gonna say it because I don't even remember, but I'm gonna just do it through osmosis. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Wow, I think about this whole, what we saw in the early 2000s, this boss bitch, idea of boss bitch, right? And how women have taken this negative connotated word, this bitch, and turned it into something like it's you talk to your homegirls that way. It's a word of endearment now, right? So that in and of itself is a prime example of taking this imposter syndrome and flipping it to serve as a woman.
And I think that's important, because you need to cultivate those relationships where there are people who are feeding into you that want to see you succeed. And one of the biggest things is that we are taught that women are not friendly to each other. Like, we are in competition with each other. So because I'm in competition with you, I can't see you as a friend. I can only see you as a competitor or an enemy.
Yeah.
So because of that, I don't want to see you succeed, or I'm not going to share my resources with you, because if I share my resources with you, you're going to take what I have established and then try to make it your own, which I don't get.
in that, because I feel like sometimes I'll give you a scenario. Like, I have walked into space and I'm always smiling. Know me, see me, they know I'm smiling, I'm happy. That's just my personality.
Mhm.
But I have walked into spaces with all women, and they will just look at me up and down and completely not speak, right? Now, me as the receiver of this energy, I can just be like, you know what? Like, I'm just not going to talk to them. But me, I always go above and beyond. I'll be like, well, hey, girl, how you doing? You know, like, especially if I know them through Instagram, I'm like, you know, this, I saw you such and such, I saw something. And two
Mhm.
things. One, if they're just completely just not nice, they will just, you know, that energy will continue. But then what they typically do is just like, oh, for real? Like, hi. It's always,
Mhm.
they're trying to gauge my energy, even if I have a smile, but they will not step out of that box of being protective.
Mhm.
I see it all the time. Laugh. And I tell you about it. I'll laugh and I'll be
Mhm.
out. Like, for real? It's so unnecessary.
I mean, it could be because you be looking homeless too, though. It could be they trying to figure out
I lift
where
you up.
where you got your outfit from. But but it's funny because when I started Boudoir for Black Women, that was a thing. A lot of people were either would say to me, "I was going to do that," and I was like, "I ain't did." Like they like, yeah, I was going to do that. I was going to do that. I'm like, okay, I would love to help you if that was the case, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't the case. So I created it, and it's been interesting to see people are like, you know, why would you do that? Because you are, in fact, a boudoir photographer. So why
Yeah.
would you create space for other people? And I'm like, because if this is my thing, I'm going to make it. That's just whatever, that is just what it is. That's how we were raised. That's what we do. But within that space, if I get to the top by myself, what is the point? Because then I will be around people who don't look like me, who don't have the same views, who don't do what I do. And so it's like I'm by myself. I would rather have people
Right.
come with me so we can do this together. There's no point, like I talk about radical self-care a lot on my page, and radical self-care is if I am unwell, the community is unwell. And if the community is unwell, then we need to figure out what the problem is. Like we need to figure out what the sickness is, and then we can work together to fix that. And the other part about that is that if my business is doing well and you are cutting me off at the knees with your price, people are going to go to you, yes, but you're not going to be able to sustain that. I would rather you come up to me so we can do this together so the market can see you actually, yeah, you got to pay this amount. We may do separate things when it comes to what we collectively, but you're going to pay around the same amount for everybody. So when we have these conversations, and I think also because we grew up and because we're sisters, like I never really needed any other friends because I have my
Mhm.
sisters. So I
Right.
think that also plays a part in that, is that we didn't have competition like that when we were younger because that's just not how we were raised.
Thank you,
And
John
so
Edge.
shout out, brother. So that I think that's also something like how you were raised to interact with others, especially other girls or women. If you are a woman or girl, and the relationship you have with your mother plays a major role in how you interact with other women. And if you see them as competition, or
Hmm.
if you see them as I want to get to know you so that way we can have that bond, that connection. Now there are some who just evil and you
Yeah.
just say useless. You would
But
recognize it and you move on.
you, it's
What do
never
you
without
think?
cause. And I said that evilness is never without cause. And typically there's still, you know, it's the educator in me. I'm still going to find out more. Like, I'm still going to talk to you. I still want to know what behind that exterior. And when it comes to this, and then you find out this idea of self-sabotage, like this self-speak that they have with themselves, it comes out like it's not something that they can hide. Um, so that is something, thank you, Heavenly, for the badge. It's something that is, you can't hide it. You cannot hide it. So I'm bringing it back to this idea of what you talked about, this over dependence on validation, right?
Yeah.
Something that I think everyone in every space wants to be recognized for something. And I'm jumping off, you know, from topics, but I mean, from our bulleted list. But I'm thinking about social media and how so many business owners attach self-worth as a business owner to
Mm-hmm.
of likes or comments, and it prevents them from stepping out of their box, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I started, and I said this story many times before, I did not want to show my face, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Because in my head, I'm like, I'm this little brown girl from Baltimore. I've already had a business that did not do well, and I pulled it
Mm-hmm.
fresh, and I want to reach a certain clientele that doesn't look like me. So I felt
Mm-hmm.
to not show my face, right? So that was me and this self-talk saying that, you know, Oneida, don't nobody right now, like, pull back. And I started the Instagram page, was doing okay. And then I'm like, this doesn't even feel right. And I had a conversation with you and like our
Mm-hmm.
younger sister, and I'm like, this is not me. I'm not authentically me if I can't show my face and show my process for my business, because no one was doing it on Instagram, showing
Mm-hmm.
this process of having a kids party rental business. So why wouldn't I show my process? And I talked to my mentor for my career, and she said, was like, well, how you not gonna show your face? Like, you, when you pull up to the people's houses, they're gonna see you. So what's the purpose? So I said, you know what, girl, you're right. You really funny. That's right. So I started to just talk on lives, right? And if you scroll my past videos, you'll see I did so many freaking lives where I literally had 2 people watching, 4 people watching.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? It didn't matter because I continued with it, right? And what people know me for now, when I pull up to people's houses, they will say to me, "Oh, I saw your story when you were out at 2 a.m." or "I saw when you got the ticket," or walking up all those steps. It's that authenticity that people recognize, and they did not had a conversation about this earlier. It's this um relatability, right?
Yeah.
But
And I
that's
think,
out. It was there.
but I mean, I remember those conversations that we used to have about that. And I mean, my business is all Black women, so I don't give, I don't care. But it is true. Like, even when I said I wanted to just focus on Black women, it was like, you're not gonna make any money. Like, they don't even want that. And I'm like, but being a risk taker is the opposite of imposter syndrome. Like, if you want to get out of imposter syndrome, you first have to take the risk. But what is good about taking a small step on the other side of fear is that once you do that one step, it's so
Yeah.
much easier to then go and continue on and do multiple steps. So once you start that process of, I'm scared, and it is if you are not scared, then you're doing it wrong. So if you
Right.
are scared, it's okay, because you realize that, yeah, I'm afraid, but if I don't do it, then what? If I don't take this step, if I don't decide to make this phone call, send this email, to do these things, it puts a down, I would say, it makes you feel like you're not stepping in your purpose. Like, if you are not doing what you're supposed to do, you get that little voice in the back of your head, like, girl, this don't even look right. Like, this don't even seem right. And you continue on, you're going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel like an imposter,
Mm,
because you know that this wasn't really what I wanted to do, but this is what I have been told to do. This is what society, my family, my friends, my spouse, this is
yeah.
what they feel like I should do. And
Yeah.
that even leads to even more imposter syndrome, because you really feel like you're not supposed to be there. You're not supposed to do that.
It's true. It's true. So today is the 11th of January, the 11th day of 2020.
So
And my 20, look at me saying the wrong year. What I want to start this before we get into the overcome part is this idea that I'm releasing all imposter syndrome for this year. Like, that is
mhm.
the mantra that I'm saying to myself. And I've never really called it imposter syndrome, because you told me what that was like a couple months back. Because I'm like, what? But I understand it, and it does happen to me. So I'm releasing that because it does not serve my bottom line at all.
No, And it's funny because when I think about imposter syndrome, or on the opposite side of that, being humble, I always think to myself, who does it serve? If you are in this space where you are second guessing yourself, who does that serve? If you are in a space where you feel like I cannot, it's not even being braggadocious. It's, I'm telling you that, yeah, I did this party, or I took this photo, or I did this, I created this. It's not being, you're not bragging. You are explaining, you are saying, I did this. You're calling more things into your space because you've done this work. One of the things that well, we'll get into that when we talk about how to get over it, but one of the things that I always tell, especially my clients, when they come to me, a lot of them are coming to me in a very transitional space. It could be divorce, it could be weight loss, empty nest, it could be anything. And when we have conversations, I ask them, you know, how do you want to feel after this? Like, what does that feel like? Once you do this with me, what does it feel like on the other side of releasing that?
Right.
And then can you tap into that? Can you tap into that every day? 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes a day. What does it feel like when you tap into that space of, I am not an imposter, this is who I am. I am not an imposter, this is what I created. And that allows you to get out of that cycle of, I shouldn't be here. I'm not worthy of this. It's not for me because I don't have X, Y, and Z certification.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big thing that we see a lot of.
And that's a perfect segue into, so as I was doing the research for this live, I arrived upon a woman who has a ebook about and a worksheet about the different types of imposters. And I thought, oh, this is different, right? Because we know about syndrome, but she's classified it into, I think, 6 different types. And as I'm reading the comments of the people on, you guys, I'm about to give you a classification. Her name is nothandoswan, and so she gives us one, I think it's 6 different categories. So the first one we all know of, it's the perfectionist, and this is the person who sets unrealistically high expectations for themselves, and then when they don't meet those expectations, they're a failure.
So let me say this. If you, and while she's reading, if you feel like this is you on any one of them, just put a fist, put a wave, put something. When you hear the one that you are, put something in the chat to be like, yeah, that's me.
Yes, let's do that. So then the next type of person, or the next type of imposter syndrome, is the soloist. And I'm definitely there. This is that person that feels like they have to do everything by themselves, because if they don't, it's not getting done right. So it's this idea that you take on 50 million tasks because nobody else is going to do it like you.
That's true.
I'm gonna put that in.
I'm putting it in. I got the thing.
Okay. So then the third one is the natural genius. So this is the person that's working on something that it doesn't come natural to them. So they feel like they're a failure. So they can be super intelligent and can do so many other things, but they're not the master of everything. And so they feel like they're not supposed to be in this space. So this is the natural genius. That's how you describe this type of imposter syndrome. The fourth one is the expert. So this is the person that they worry that they don't know it all. And so if they don't know it all, then it's just, they're not supposed to be in the space, right? And then the last one is Superwoman. And I feel like I've met a lot of Superwomen. So the Superwoman feels like if they are legit, then they have to be crushing it on all levels. Like everything in their life has to be aligned. They have to be perfect at every aspect. Home, career, business, everything has to be on point. And so they very similar to the perfectionist, they go beyond to create this persona that's unrealistic.
And I think that last one is big for women, because we are positioned in a way where you can have the degree, you can be a damn near rocket scientist, but if the home life is messed up, even if you have a spouse, it is your fault. So you have to be all things to everyone all the time. Because if not, then it's looked down upon because you are not, even if you have someone in your home with you, you are the reason why all these things are not working because it's your fault. So you feel
Right.
like you have to be running, 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 running.
Ruffles says she's 2 of 2. I'm there
We
with
got, we got a lot. Somebody was like, you know, I'm just going to be all of them. Just go ahead and be.
right, just all 5 of them. But you know what? When I read that, I laughed to myself because indeed, I'm definitely part of all of those.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like those pieces of me that know about certain things are also what made me very successful in my business because I just, you gotta do it. You gotta make it. Hey, otherwise it's just not gonna happen. And yes, now at scaling, it's hurting me, but in the beginning, it's the trajectory that I had to take in order to reach year 7.5.
And I think that, and I'm putting these questions in comment box again. So if we have questions or comments, I think that's something that is just innate in us, just because of how we were raised, and we
Thank you,
coming
Len.
from. Thank y'all for watching and for the badges. Coming from parents, especially maternal side of immigrants, and how
Yeah.
they worked. And I did a live about this not too long ago. Where I was saying that within a generation, where we have come from to where we are now, because of the work that was put into place by our grandmother and grandmothers to our mother to now to us, and how we are expounding on what was put into place from just you and I and our younger sister, because of what we saw and the things that we had to do and the things that we watched them do, and how we realized that, okay, now how do we take what we've learned? We know now hard work don't mean shit. So it's not about hard work. It's about working in a way that is smart for you and your business and your family and your personal life. How do you now change that narrative so you don't feel like you're an imposter because you can't get it all done? And
Right.
so how do we take what we've learned and now flip it and then create something that is sustainable? I think that's the biggest thing. Is it sustainable?
Is it sustainable? So let's get right into the steps to overcome. So there are many people that gave a lot of ideas on what would work. And so what I did is I tried to trickle it down to things that apply to business people, right? Things
Mm-hmm.
that were, things that we could encounter often in business. So the first one was this idea that accept that you are, and I put a blank. So accept that you are the best in your industry. Accept that you are an expert at what you do. Accept that what you know is enough. So you can fill that with whatever. So it's the statement, accept that you are, and then you fill in the blank. And I think that's a place to start when it comes down to that self-talk. It's that idea that I'm just going to accept where I am, and this is me.
Yeah, and I think that's important to name. Like we talk about naming your fears, because when you name your fears, you are able to acknowledge them. So if you are naming those things that you feel you are not supposed to be, like if you say you're not supposed to be in that room and you name that fear, you name that, like, yes, I am supposed to be here because of, and not even because of,
Right.
you are supposed to be in that room because you exist. Like, we need to stop putting parameters on why you deserve to be there. You deserve to be there just because you exist. You are aligned to be there. You have a calling. If it's balloon art, if it's pictures, if it's paintings, you have a calling that if you didn't do this, someone else would not be able to do what they do. There are many times where I've watched other people's work and I've been inspired, but I would not have been inspired if I didn't see that they did it first. So if I didn't see my sister being able to do her business and doing 6 figures, I didn't even think it would be possible for me, because we are in close proximity. So that is why you really have to take the time to focus on who in your area, who in your network is doing what, not what you want to do, but who in your network is believing that they can do it and getting the shit done and doing it and is able to tell you, no, like, come on, we can do this together. That's important.
Apologetically. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Fuck it in the system.
That's it. Get it done. So
I've been thinking more about what scares me lately, and it truly helps. It does.
yeah.
Because you can name it. When you name your fears, it is so easy to just say, well, yeah, it exists. And now what?
Right. Or
That's it.
That it's a I don't want to say unnecessary. It's a feeling, a fear that's unwarranted.
Yes. Yeah. When you can put a name to it, you realize that it's not that big to begin with.
Yeah.
I think that, like you said, that's the biggest thing. It really isn't that big because you can name it. Now, if you couldn't name it, that's a different story. But because you can name it, it's like, it's not as big as I thought it was.
Yes.
I'm making it bigger than it is.
Thank you for the badge.
Yes. Put that fucking in your system. Listen, I'm going to tell y'all, listen, okay, write this down. Okay, write this down. And then we're going to go back. See, on my page, I be cursing. I don't know what y'all be doing over here. But on my page, I be cursing. I be cursing all the time. So it is what it is. So for if you have sensitive ears, I don't know what to say. But one thing that I said, I did a live for this group in Canada, and they asked me, you know, how did I get to this point where I am? Why your sister say we got tithes and offerings? Thank y'all for giving to the church. Oh goodness. Somebody said, what's helped me is knowing that we are all dealing with some level of imposter syndrome at all levels of expertise and in all fields. It's true. It's true. But let me tell you how you do this. Fuck it. So one thing I said, they asked me, you know, how do you do this? After everything you've been through, how are you who you are at this point in your life? And I said, one, again, facing the fears and naming them. But also I said, I envision a field of fuckets. And when I see the fuckets, I bring them to me and I gather them up and then I just release them like butterflies. So that's one thing, like visualization is so important to your journey. If you can envision all the fuckets in the field and you just plucking them out and then just getting rid of them, it allows you to take the moment and say to yourself, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It wasn't what I thought it was.
It's true.
So
and
go ahead and take that bucket.
I'm laughing when I think about, you know, I remember when I got my first invitation. I'm saying invitation because it's a secret society out there. My first invitation to do an event in the Hamptons. And I said to Danny, who was my husband, I'm like, you know, this is like where Puff Daddy parties at. Like, how are we going to do this? Like, what do I have to pull up in? You know, I have to be there early. You know, we have to go and spend the night. It was this whole production of where my thoughts went, right?
Mm-hmm.
So him being the master, he's just like, it's just a delivery. Like, why are you putting all of these extra things on a party? And he's like, didn't you already do their party in Manhattan? I'm like, yeah, but this is their summer home. It's the same people. And so having somebody that can listen to your qualms or whatever and just aid you in it helps a lot. It really does. But it's there, you know, it's something, it's almost like a first reaction, that knee-jerk reaction to have a fear of something.
And I think it's a lot of times it is that we feel like we are inadequate. And because you feel that way, sometimes it can turn into something negative because then you try to put that on other people, or there are other people who feel inadequate in their space and then they try to put that on you. But one thing I will also say is that you have to not take things personally because everyone is on a journey, and wherever they happen to start is where they happen to start. So you could be at point F and they could still be at point A, and you are so far along in your journey. And like they always say, hurt people hurt people. So if you are in a space where you're trying to rationalize why this person has done this, I'm sharing my good news with them. I thought they were, you know, my collaboration partner, and I'm sharing with them and they are really being negative. Or you hear that person like, oh, that's all you did? You got your little job, or you got your little this, or you did like, and that.
Use little, right?
We do.
but it's almost like using that. What was the word we used before? The bitch word. It's like you
Mhm.
a word that has a negative connotation and you flip it, you know, to be the opposite. But yeah,
Yeah, and you have to rationalize some things you can't rationalize. Some people are just assholes, and that's just who they are. That's who they're always going to be. And setting boundaries is a big part of really overcoming this syndrome, because you need to set a boundary with yourself and you need to set a boundary with other people. So when you are sharing good news, when you are doing these things and they give you something where you weren't expecting it, some type of negative reaction to it, you have to sit and say to yourself, I'm not going to take this personal because I know I'm the shit. So
right.
I ain't going to take it
Not your
personal.
business, right? It's not. That's not my business, right? The
It's
fact
not.
up with an attitude is not my, and that's hard to do, especially
It is.
in a service-based business. It is hard to just be like, okay, it's not me, and especially for the event industry, because event day people are crazy, like they're
Mhm.
truly on something, and especially planners that I've dealt with, many of them feel like they have to have this certain persona when they're dealing with people, right? It's not that serious. And so for me, I have to come into the space like that don't have nothing to do with me. That's just how they are. Like when somebody, like this happened the other day. This man, I set up the table and he needs the table out the way, misaligned and everything because he had an attitude. And I'm just like, you just gonna kick my table? But that wasn't my business. You go ahead, I'll fix it.
And see, what I do is I say to them, especially if I go, I have a home studio, so I don't go out anywhere. But if it's like that, I'd be like, oh, you okay? You all right? Are you okay? Like, is everything okay at home? Because we didn't come here together. Like, I don't know what's going on with you.
Right.
Everything all right? You okay? And
Thank
then
you
usually
for the
they laugh and be like, yeah, girl, it's been a long day or something like that. I'm like, oh, girl, I know. It's okay.
exact.
It's okay. But I'm just trying to make sure you're okay. Like,
And
because you
they need to be reminded of, people need to be reminded that something is not all right, and
yeah.
I'm gonna bring it to your attention because what you're doing makes no sense.
And you don't have to escalate it either. Like,
Mm.
I do it by using humor because I don't care. But I just want to be like, you okay? Like, or if I'm out and I see, that person just doesn't seem like they on something, you can tell something is obviously wrong. I'm going to compliment them about something they have on,
Mm.
or just anything. But I do see that we forget that everybody is starting their day in a different space.
Yeah,
And you cannot take it personal when you are sharing your good news and they don't give it the same attention that you give it, because that can lead to that imposter syndrome. Like, well, I thought I did good. Like, I thought it was like, I was excited, but this person kind of gave me like, oh, that's nice
yeah,
type of energy.
yeah. Thank you guys for these edges. This is my first time doing it. I feel like, you know,
Girl,
other imposter syndrome. I'm like, who the hell gonna buy a badge? What is that? But thank you.
what your sister say? Tithes and offerings to the old house.
So the next part of this is this idea of taking appreciation. And it's this idea that you do an amazing job at what you whatever your product or service is, and then people compliment you on it and you don't know how to receive it.
Mm. Yeah, and that's true. That's a big one. I have to learn that. That's one thing that I have really had to process, is that you don't have to give an explanation for anything. Say thank you and keep it moving.
Yeah.
That's how you do. Just say thank you and keep it moving, especially when you are putting so much effort and work into something. People want to acknowledge that, and you should allow them to acknowledge it, and you should bask in that. Like, yes, give me more. Like, just let it fill you up, because we need that. Sometimes you are yourself having a bad day and someone tells you how something you did or something you said impacted them, and you may need that. I know I do sometimes.
Yes.
And it's those little things, those compliments where, you know, someone will say, oh, you know, I loved how you did that. You're like, oh, that was enough of that old thing. You know, I just had it before.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Right.
That's it. Just
And
thank you.
that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it. You know,
And which
I think
stand in the compliment. It
yes,
says stand in the compliment. Yes.
I was somewhere the other day, and it's also about this reciprocity. So we
Yeah.
already expect that I'd be looking homeless, right? So when I'm in a space or going somewhere, and you know how you know somebody has on their best and it look a mess, but you can tell they proud of what they did, and you just know, like, people probably gonna look like they a clown. I'm that person that's always like, girl, you really rocking that purple wig, you know, whatever it is. It's I do it all the
It's
time.
funny because that's why Dr. Parson don't like to go out with me, because when we weren't going out, I'd be like, yes, sis, with the hair.
Right.
Okay, I see you.
Because people are dealing with stuff, and you can tell when somebody put on their best or is doing their best, and they're doing it so the world can celebrate them, to see
Yeah.
them. You know what I mean? So it's always being in a space to give that compliment as well. Is part of that personal growth, and just, you know, spreading the positive.
It's a part of radical self-care.
Yeah.
Like we when I started talking about, you know, the community is well, then we are well. So that's a part of that. Like feeding into someone with your words costs nothing.
Yes.
It costs nothing. I have a hard time accepting compliments, but I'm aware I try to give it to others so they can feel great. Yes.
Exactly.
But also being able to accept them because you just exist. I think that's something that's very, especially in the States. Like it's all about how much hard work you're putting in, how much hard work you're putting in. You're doing the work, you're doing the work. But sometimes it's not even the work at all. It's just that you
Mm-hmm.
exist in that space, and how amazing it is that you exist in that space, even with everything that's happening around you. You still just are amazing at what you do, and just exist in that and just be you. That's it.
Exactly.
Why your mother say she is?
And so that leads us to the next one, is to stop comparing yourself to others. And
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to push that further. So right now, I am in this deep think tank, just strategizing my year. I do that every January. Last year I went away, so I was able to just really hone down on it. But now the next, until about the 19th, 20th, I this planning phase where I'm doing reels, but I'm cutting myself off from looking at what's happening on Instagram. And typically nothing really happens in January. There's no parties on the East Coast that are stuff that I will be paying attention to right now anyway. So it's not like I'm missing much. But when you are planning and you're strategizing for your business, turn off the social media. Think about whatever it is you need to think about within yourself. Use your own brain power, your team, your tribe, and don't look for social media for that inspiration to push you further, because I feel like it limits you. And then you start with this idea that somebody is doing something better than you. And again, like you spoke about before, you don't know if they're on on point F while you're at point A. That is the theft of joy. That's somebody told me that many years ago, and it's so true.
And I think it's something that you have to get outside of social media just overall. Like you have to go out and experience things, because it allows you to take in other parts of the world. And even with that, it allows you to be in a space where you're like, you know what? I can use these colors, I can use this, I can use this texture, I can use all these things together. And yep, she said, then it will be cookie cutter without original thought as well. Yes. Like there is nothing that is created that is not something that has taken from one thing and added to something else and then mixed it and remixed it. But even if someone takes what you have, they don't have the secret sauce. They're not you. And so when it comes to that, it's like, just do whatever you want. Like for me, my feed does not show a lot of pictures. Like it doesn't. If you looked at my feed, you may not even know I'm a boudoir photographer until I put like one random picture up or something from one of my clients that just talks about the experience. But overall, you're going to see my face. You're going to see me. You're going to see the reels that I create. You're going to see my personality. And even within that, like there are photographers who just have all pictures, and that's good. That's just not me. That's not me. That's not what I do. That's not how I want to present myself because I want my clients to know me. And
Right.
so, yes, there are times where I've heard people say,
Thank you, John.
well, go ahead, brother. There are people who will say, well, your stuff should look like this because people are not going to know this and not going to know this and not going to know this and not going to know that. And I'm like, but I like what I do.
And you see, that idea of that unsolicited advice, that is people speaking from their lived experiences. And we get it all the time. But
Yeah.
I always tell myself, if somebody is not doing almost exactly what I'm doing, I'll listen to what you're saying, but I'm going to take your advice with a grain of salt, especially if I didn't ask for it, right? If I'm asking somebody for advice, it's different. But if I don't ask you for it and you offer it, I'm going to be like, well, have you done it before? Have you gone here before? And no. And it's a no. So it's like, I'm always going to embrace my uniqueness and
Mm-hmm.
experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how it's going to be.
That's the clubhouse. I call it, that's the clubhouse effect. Because that's why I'm not on it no more. There's so many people who are business gurus on Clubhouse and dating experts on Clubhouse. And they ain't even got a pot to piss in, but they're experts and gurus at certain things. And you're like, but where? Like what's going on? Where's your experience? And we see that Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of these things can make someone seem like more than what they are.
It goes back to this idea of followers equating to something, right? When it's not a matrix of your level of expertise. It's not. Because I know some of the most talented, most out of the box creators that I know have like 500 followers on Instagram, right?
Making money.
Making guap. Okay.
Making money.
Some of them don't even have websites. But when you go to their event, you're like, well, what the hell? They got a $50,000 square foot warehouse, and you're like, but boo, like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that whenever I see that, it validates the point that you don't have to be loud, and this is what I'm talking about, these TikTok Clubhouse people. You don't have to be loud with what you know in order to be an expert. You don't have to have 6-figure followers to be an expert in what it is you know.
Let me say, you don't have to be loud, but talk your shit.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
You don't have to be loud, but let people know who you are, because there will be times when people will try to say that you aren't the person that's supposed to lead things, especially as women. We know we get mansplained a lot, and you could have things on your shirt that say that you are that person, and they will tell you, oh no, that's not who you are. So you have to have a sense, like we talk about fuck it, but you have to have a sense of who you are, and understanding that there will always be people who are going to try you, because audacity is at an all-time high.
Yes.
But you have to be aware of who you are. If you are not aware of who you are, it is so easy for you to use the scale that someone is using to weigh you against themselves, and you come up lacking. So it's important for you to know exactly what you bring to the table. Shit, you might even be the table. You might have created the whole damn table yourself.
Right.
And that's fine, but don't be afraid to tell somebody, no, these are my credentials. Let me run this down to you, because you got me fucked up. Yeah, you got me messed up. Let me tell you who I am. Like, you can do it in a way that's not condescending. I don't believe in that unless, that's what you want to do. But you can tell them exactly who you are and be like, no, run my my Wikipedia. Like, don't play me.
Right. So I wanna list these next couple ones. Sorry, I got to stretch my eyes, so my little filter moving. I want to list them because there's a whole section after this.
What? I told you don't use that damn filter.
I'm putting on makeup, so this is gonna be it. So hold on, where were we? So we talked about words to your emotion and knowing your stress, like knowing what's a trigger for you. That's a huge part of knowing or putting words to your emotions. And then it's this idea that as you are growing in your space, in your business, is to measure your progress. I talk about this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting in the work. You're collecting the buckets, but also stop, pause, and measure what you've accomplished, and take stock in that.
Mm-hmm. And do that against your own measurement.
Yeah.
Success is different for everyone. My level of success is totally different than any other photographer who does what I do, because I am not looking at the bottom line all the time. I'm looking at, if I help my client and she feels like she is this person that was able to overcome whatever it is that she was doing, working with, that is a measurement of success for me. One of them, not the main one, but it's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was I able to help this person to tap into that part of themselves that they thought that they had lost?
Right.
That's totally different than my bottom line. Yes, I want to know what I'm bringing in, but also that to me is a measure of success.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to write that down. You have to write down what your measurement of success is, not someone else's.
Right. This next one that I'm going to say is something that I see a lot. So it's this idea that don't put people who are successful or who you perceive as successful and what you're trying to achieve on a pedestal. So I'll give you for instance, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I went to the Bambini soiree, which was a what do you call it? A conference for any kind of event planner, any kind of event in individuals that dealt with children events.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in the space, and I went and I knew several people there, but there was his first name is Eddie. I cannot remember his last name, but a huge rental company. His event is Revelry Event Design. I believe they're in LA. And when I'm talking about like top upper echelon when it comes to event planning, right? So I'm there with Cece, who is Little Celebrations. And this, when you talk about confidence on 1,000, this is Cece. So he gave a presentation, and she was like, I'm going to go talk to him. And I'm looking like her like, what you gonna ask him? So she goes over to him and she's like, I want to source some chairs and I want to know who do I talk to? Right? Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, damn, girl. So as a result of the conversation she had with him, and I still think he told us the wrong thing, but whatever. But whatever. He told us to go to the High Point Market. And so that event was in October, and it was in August. And in October, her and I went to the High Point Market.
I remember.
It wasn't what it's supposed to be, right? But what she bought amazing. She found 2 vendors that were really, that she purchased from for her business. But what I sat and I thought about was, we asked him for specific information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very general answer. So as you're seeking validation from people who you feel are successful, don't always expect them to give you a easy way in, right? Many people ask me so many things about my business, and I feel like I'm very forthcoming about whatever it is I give. But not everybody is that way. And people will tell things to send you on the opposite path, or a path that's not how they went. And again, people have reached their pinnacle of success, and here you are at the bottom, they'll still direct you in the wrong way. So be very mindful of that piece of it. Always expect to do the work yourself, do the research yourself, because nobody is going to give you a direct answer that's going to make you reach a level of where they are that fast.
You have to really do your due diligence. And you also have to be willing to put out that money. Like, I can't express that enough. Education ain't free. And knowledge, damn sure, when you want that knowledge of certain things, is not going to be free. So you have to be willing. Like, for instance, I had someone who sent me a message today, and I gave her the answer because that's, like you said, that's just what we do. And then I said, but here's the information if you want to set up a call for us to have it, because I do that.
I just literally this month, I just started doing that.
Listen, because if you have that, I think that's one thing that people don't really think about. We think that we have to have tangible goods to sell, and that's what's going to give us money. But that knowledge that you have from your experience working in whatever profession that you are in is money. It is money that other people want to give to you because you are the person that has that skill set. That's why I always say, don't be afraid to show your face. Don't be afraid to say what you know, because someone needs what you have, but they don't know that you exist. So if you are not showing up as yourself and not as your imposter, then they're going to say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. But when you show up as yourself, it's so much easier for people to say, you know what, I need to book with this person because I know that I can see myself in this person. They know what they're talking about. So I'm going to put the money away to get. I've had 3 people already tell me I'm saving so I can do your mentor program.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, bet. Like, okay.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. Like, put a price on your knowledge. If you don't get nothing outside of this, put a price on your knowledge. Do not be afraid to put a price on your knowledge, because you put in that work, you put in that time, so you should get paid according to your expertise and your experience.
Yes.
Message.
That's it.
Drink my water.
So the next one was recognize that on social media, you're seeing highlights of the process of somebody's business, right? It's not the complete picture. And if you have teenage children, I'm sure you have these conversations with them about this whole idolization of other folk, and like, that ain't real life. And it's the same thing in business. Like, when you're seeing a business's Instagram page, it's a highlight of what they want to show you, what they want to celebrate within their business. But you know, like, that their credit card is maxed out, or they haven't seen their children in months. They have a wayward teenager because they haven't been present. There's so many things that you will not see. So this whole idea of recognizing social media is just a platform for highlights.
And that's something that even within business, but in your personal life as well, like, you're curating a 60-second reel of whatever it is. And I think that's also why people really resonate with you, because you be looking rough. Like, you be looking rough, and they be like,
but when I don't look rough,
you do. When you don't look rough,
they don't know who I am. When the turban come off, they be like, I think that's her, but I don't really know.
That's true. That's true. It's true, because I went to a program for photographers, and I had my little piece of hair on, and they was like, and I'm like, it's me.
Well, y'all,
it's me.
And yesterday on my reel, I'm gonna have to, work her up. I'm gonna wear her tomorrow. But yeah,
Ooh, okay.
Piece of me, because first of all, ain't nobody got time to put on a full face of makeup every time they come on social media. To me, that's not authentic. Like, I'm not doing it. That's why I love these filters. But it's too much. And that's
you be going away with them filters though. You be really doing it though.
But listen, I love it because I don't gotta do nothing. I just gotta do something up here, put on a cute little top. It's good.
Letty said you got the Barbara wig, because remember, she had the Dora. She had the Dora before.
Okay, get the name right.
What's it called?
Her name Vivian.
Oh, I thought you said Vivica before.
Oh, was it Vivica? I know it was a V name. I don't even know. So where were we? Okay, yes. Find your tribe. I think that, and I talked about this in the last live I did the other day, is your worth is your network. I truly and wholeheartedly believe that, because you are going to come to a level of success that you're going to need people who are at or above your level, that you just need to be around, and absorb their knowledge, absorb their energy, and surround yourself with like-minded people that believe in you. People surround themselves with people all the time, freeloaders, imposters, whomever, but it's people who believe in you.
And I think with that, one thing that I really focused on, especially in 2019, being purposeful with who I was surrounding myself with. and saying exactly, like when we talk about talking about our fears and naming our fears, I
Mhm.
named what I wanted and I wrote that down.
Yes.
Writing the things that you want down are so important. So I wrote down that I wanted to cultivate relationships, business relationships with other women who were within my same space, who were business minded, who understood reciprocal relationships
Mm.
and how those things work. And so, because I wrote that down, I've created this space of these relationships that even when I was having an event and somebody dropped out, I knew within 24 hours, like they dropped out 12 hours before the event was supposed to take place. And I sent a text message out and I had at least one person call me, and my other girl, Ray, was like, do you want me to come on? What do you need? I can be there. And
Yes.
I had someone else come and do a dance thing, and it was immediate. Like, okay, this just happened, and I gave myself about 30 minutes to freak out. Then I'm like, hey y'all, do you know or can you do this? And it was an immediate time of like, I really need your help
Right.
because this is not working. And so being in that space, you also have to be in the version of yourself that is able to receive that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't say you want a one thing and then you're not all in. You ain't 10 toes down. You
Right.
got about 5 toes in and you want everyone else to have 10. You can't do that. That's not how this works. That's not how this works.
A piece of that, and Ketty, you're on here. Ketty, so I'm a giver, right? And I think that's a part of my birth order, being the oldest, being nurturing, but I'm definitely a giver. And so I can see somebody in need and I'm immediately going to assist. But when it's time for me to give, to receive, it's very hard for me to ask for help. And like Ketty is always, she told me the other day, she was gonna come and she was gonna fight me if when I open house, if she's not the person preparing the food. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
enjoy it. She's like, oh bitch, I'm cooking. And I'm just like, okay. And it's me trying, releasing that, people want to help and let them do what they do. That's why, their your tribe, let them help you how they feel, how they see fit.
And that's important. Like you taking time to say, I am not well, I need help is a major part of stepping out of imposter syndrome. Because imposter syndrome, like we gave you the list of 5 things, will have you thinking that you have to do it all by yourself. When there are people who are literally just waiting for you to give the word. Like, oh yeah, Lady said she's gonna bring her to go bag. Exactly, exactly. Me too, but I didn't want to say it. But it's one of those things where you have to, if you want to receive something, you have to be open to receive it.
Yeah.
It's like when they say, if you're going to pray, don't worry, but if you're going to worry, don't pray. You can't say that you want to have these relationships and then when they come, you sabotage them because you feel like this person is going to do something that is going to make you feel like, oh, shouldn't be what it's supposed to be. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been in situations or had people do me dirty, and I still don't put that on the next person. I give you enough rope to hang yourself, and then once you've done that, then I don't talk to you again. That's just who I am. But says yes, lately I've finally been able to ask for help. Fuck that. Yeah.
Hmm. But let me say
It,
about Yossi, and you are the queen of networking. I have
it,
never met a businesswoman or business person that has networked more and created communities and spaces of for other people to network as she has. And so and this is again perception, right? So when I see and I hear an event that you have put on, I know it's going to be 40 people on the roster that sponsors, like off rip, right? And so
mm-hmm.
it's part of I guess accepting who you are and your greatness, and just shining, just literally basking in what it is you do. And so I want to segue into this really fast. The last thing is for you to create a digital folder, so to speak, of, they call it a happy folder. So every email, every DM, every text message that you receive from, you know, colleagues, from clients that celebrate who you are, greatness, save that shit. So when you're feeling less than, or you're feeling this imposter syndrome that just creeps up, it's like a monthly thing or whatever it is, you can pull it up and you can read how people have celebrated you. You can read all of the great things that you've done. And it's part of that validation, yes, but it's giving you proof that you belong in the space that you're in.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that my friend Camilla, who I met exactly, I think maybe I've known her for 2 years, but she's become an integral part of just me. And one thing that she always says to me is like, and she's in her late 40s, she was like, I've never had a friend like you, because you feed into me in a way, and you create this space for me to just be myself. And like, even when we were talking about something you were about to do with someone, and I was like, yeah, I told my sister about you, and I told her how, you could probably come into this and we could do this. And she was like, I've never had anyone do that. I've never had that type of relationship. I've been that way for other people, but I've never had that space to do that for others. And just creating that space is important, as I keep saying, for the community. And one thing I think with networking as well is you need to network to the side. Sometimes we like to network up, but if you're networking up, that comes a part where it's like, I need to do more to make sure that I am showing this person that I am worthy of them giving me whatever they give me. Yeah. But if you're networking to the side, you are in a space where you are with that person able to do something together, so it doesn't feel like one person is working harder than the other. So going to the side instead of up is so important in that. And then the other thing I was going to say about, like what you said about text messages and DMs, what she told me was that I needed to step into my version of pleasure, and whatever that is. So not anything with sexual, but what is that? If you are thinking about what brings you the most pleasure, and stepping into that and being in that space, and then writing those things down. So for me, I have a journal which I write in. It could be every day, it could be, whenever, and whatever good things have happened, I'm writing in that journal. And it's small, it's big things, it's whatever. Like if I talk to you all, if I, happen to have a client that comes in and is crying, and, amazing just interactions, I write that down in that journal so I can go back to it. And at the end of the year or whenever, I can say, like, this is my journey, and these are all the amazing things that I have been able to do in order to realize that I'm not an imposter, because this is my legacy of what I've been able to do.
Exactly. No, your sound was distorted. So that leads us into this affirmation, and this is something that I do with my children. And what was the movie, The Help, where she was like, you was kind, you was whatever. Like, that is such a powerful thing that I feel like people don't do enough of, is literally standing in front of a mirror, or just saying it to yourself when you're in the car driving to work, whatever it is to big yourself up. Like, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. And it's this, so the first one I just posted is, there is no failure, only feedback. And I'll give you an example of this for me. So this summer, I was bombarded with an influx of events, and I didn't get my drivers until August. So it was my goddaughter, who's on here, Kayena, and Jake, who is a family friend. They were working it out with me. It was a day where I had like three events in South Jersey. I was late for all of them. And I'm not talking a little bit late. I'm talking the party started at 11 and I'm coming at 11:45. Now, I was, and kind of, you probably didn't even notice, like, I was sick, but you would never be able to tell that. Never. I literally pulled up to the people's house. I'm like, you want it or not? That was where I was. And it put them off. It put the clients off, because they were like, damn, you're not even going to say, sorry, you late. But because of the way I am, it was just like, I text you to say I wasn't going to be here, so you knew I was going to arrive at this time. I got to keep it moving. And it was this idea that, one, I had to be gentle with myself because I fucked up, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't beat myself up because it was a failure on so many fronts, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to give back money. And not only did I give back money, but I also comped an additional event for them. Thankfully, everybody used it because they could have chosen not to do business with me again. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so she said not one bit. So I did that because for me, a part of my business or customer service is to always make the client feel like I didn't take advantage of them or their money. And so I walked away from that. Like, I came home, I must have cried. Danny was looking at me like, what you do this time? But it was, again, sitting down with that journal and writing
Mm-hmm.
how this is never, ever, ever, ever gonna happen again. And what do I need to do in order to make sure it doesn't happen again? So it was the feedback. And so at that point, I text each of the clients and I said to them, you know, I explained what happened basically, right? And of course, you don't have to explain, but for me, it was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not going to sleep tonight if I don't explain what transpired. And so I did that, and it was this idea that, tell me how you're feeling as the client so that I can get this feedback. And it's not a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck up, but give.
Yeah. And I think that's important to give it. You have to give yourself grace. I think that's a big thing is giving yourself grace to know that there will be times where you make decisions that are just at that time good decisions, not good or bad, it's just a decision that you've made. But you have to give yourself grace to realize that at that moment with the information that you had, that was the best choice or
Yeah.
the obvious choice. And then later on, if you think about it, it may not have been, but at that moment, that's what it was. So giving ourselves grace and giving others grace to make mistakes is extremely important. Sometimes we don't get to make mistakes, but I realized that a part of just being a human being is allowing someone to make the mistake, but then they also have to go back, like you said, and acknowledge it. Sometimes people don't acknowledge that they've made mistakes. They just want you to gloss over it, like, yeah, okay, and what? And I think that's a big part of that too. But that comes with creating boundaries for yourself and for others. When you create those boundaries, you know what's best for you and what you're going to put up with.
Yes. So then the next affirmation is, pretending to be something that I'm not negates what I am. So when you're in space and you are, well, you feel it because you know something's off.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're pretending to be something else, um, you're it does you're not happy. You're not able to just be and relax because you're putting on, like I always say to myself, or my sisters and I talk about this idea of wearing a mask. And depending on where you are, you can have several masks. So when I was working, I wore a mask every day. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody ever knew how miserable I was because I was constantly wearing a mask. And that was further proof for me that I had to leave because I cannot be myself. I cannot experience any kind of joy working 8 hours space where I'm wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's you got to be honest with yourself. Like if you're not honest with anybody else, be honest with yourself
Yes.
and stop being an imposter to yourself. You have to be honest with what is best for you because think about it. Like I said, in pleasure, if you're at that point where you are at your optimum level because everything is in your favor, everything is working out, how amazing would that be? If you decided to just pick yourself and choose yourself and do the things that make you feel good and do the things that give you that pleasure to know that I've done this and I did it because I wanted to, not because society told me I had to do it, not because my family told me I had to do it, not because my friends I had said I had to do it. I did it because I wanted to take time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that a lot of us unfortunately don't get to have or don't think that we are capable of doing.
It's true. It's true. Yes.
Message. Mm-hmm. Message.
And what Letty said is it's no time to pivot. And I'm thinking about that in who we put in our business, so to speak. Like when you're creating that, know when something is not, or a relationship is not serving you. Like the opportunity, the reciprocity is not there. So you need to know when to pivot. And it's not burning a bridge. You want to do it in a way that the other person doesn't feel as if just left them on the scene, but
Mm-hmm.
still, you know, protect your energy, pivot when you need to, when something is serving you, and just do you.
Well, I don't care. The fuck.
Bridges. You know why? Because you never. It's to me. It's almost like burning a book. You know how I love books. So it's like there's going to be something that person can give me. Otherwise, why did I talk to them in the first place? You know what I mean? It's very rare that I'm going to start a relationship with somebody that cannot offer me something.
I think that a big part of that though is you have to think about how did you bond with that person. Sometimes we bond with people out of obligation, out of trauma, um, out of it being Monday, out of it being the person that we work with.
Yeah.
And we create those bonds because they serve us at that time. And sometimes you have to put a hard stop to that.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to just walk away from people. You have to just be like, I can't do this anymore to yourself. And you just can't say anything to that person because you already know that if you do that, that person is definitely not going to make this be something that is a clean break. So you have to know yourself. You have to know that person. And you have to also be aware of what your boundaries are and enforcing those boundaries. Because if you are not enforcing those boundaries with that person, they're going to continue to do the same thing.
Indeed.
Until you get tired, because they're not going to get tired.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
So in closing, I have several things that I want to just read. So it starts with be you. Be gentle with yourself. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's not a lie that you're in the space that you're in. You deserve to be there. You deserve everything that you have worked toward. You are good enough. Don't ever say why me or why am I here, because you belong where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You inspire others. I think so many of us are afraid to accept that. You're in the space, we're looking to you for inspiration. So accept that. You can do it. If you put your mind to it, you put your resources to it, you can achieve and accomplish whatever it is you set out to do. Your thoughts and your self-talk is super important. Your voice that you speak to yourself in your head has to be positive, because whatever you're saying to yourself, this self-talk that's negative, it's going to resonate outside. So having
Mm-hmm.
positive self-talk is super instrumental to you reaching your goal. And then the last thing is your idea of competence is achievable. So if you come to me and you're asking me, or people ask me often about pricing, right? Y'all on here talking about me? Oh, that's mommy. Because you laughing. I'm like, what's happening? So this idea that you don't want to set a price because you feel like you're new, feel like you don't have the experience yet. Nah, forget that. When I started on the scene, I had a $125 table. Like, who's gonna rent that? It didn't matter. I had the table. My husband built it. This is what the price was.
Who
And
gonna check you?
huh?
Who gonna check you, boo?
Who gonna check me? Because ain't nobody else got the table, right? So it's this idea that you set your price for what you're worth, your time, your experience. You don't have to justify that to anyone. You're gonna, some people are just not gonna be your clients. But the fact is, you set your price to make a profit. So
Mm-hmm.
don't ever question that you're not worth it. There's a quote from Dennis Waitley, and he says, it's not you. Hold on, let me read it before I say it, because I'm all stuttering. Too much wine. Oh, I think I wrote it wrong. Okay, so here it is. I'm sorry. It's not what you are that holds you back. It's what you think you're not. So it's not what you are that holds you back. It's what you think you're not. And
Pin
that's
my mother comment. Pin my mother comment.
what she say. So this is my mother, y'all. She said, "These are my girls. When did y'all become so smart, girl? That's enrichment classes you was paying for."
And I want to say, to sum it up, thank you for your tithes and offerings to the House of O. Greatly, greatly appreciate that. Also, we are doing a
Oh,
program. Camilla, there go Camilla. I was talking about you, girl. We are doing, if you like what we talked about here,
yeah,
on the, what date is it?
30th. It's Sunday at 2 p.m. January the 30th. We are leading a Zoom. It's not going to be on Instagram. It's going to be a Zoom conference, so
I
to
got it.
speak.
It's a digital vision board party. And what we're going to be doing is for business owners. So we are really going to be talking about profitability. Watch my sister. She actually did a live about this, which was really good. Thank you, Letty. Profitability. We're going to be networking as well. It's only available to 22 of you. Actually less than 22 now. I feel like it's like
Yeah.
20. I remember 20 people. Yeah. And it's going to be a way for you to network, a way for you to build your vision. One of the things we talked about has been vision, and why creating a vision and actually being able to not only see it in your mind, but to see it on paper, to see it
Yeah.
in a digital space where you can see that as often and as enough as you need is so important to you feeling like you are not an imposter. And then we talked about that tribe aspect. So having a community of women or whomever decides to come, but having them there with you to have ideas flow and being able to say, I can be in a space where I'm safe enough to talk about my ideas. I'm safe enough to tell you what's happening and not feel like someone is going to judge you because they feel like you are being too much. And then also with that, they can tell you, well, I tried this already. How about you trying this? And I think that's important to have those relationships so people will challenge you. It's
Yeah.
important to have people that will challenge you in the relationships that you have, not only with your business, but with yourself.
Indeed.
So this is going to be an experience where we get together. It's at 2 o'clock again on the 30th. You can go to either one of our pages and see the information. We will actually put it up into our stories again, so you can just
Yeah.
click on the link and be a part of that. But the other thing I want to say in closing, which I always say on when I do my lives, is that you are your longest and most expensive relationship.
Mm.
So if you are in a space where you don't feel like you are worthy enough to be who you are, you need to make sure that you get to that point where you feel like you are enough.
Yeah.
Because if you are discounting yourself to make others feel better about themselves, you are doing a disservice to yourself. Oh, Jesus. That just came off my
Hey,
dome.
amen. That's what my kids say.
What?
They say, I say amen.
But I'm gonna say it again, like this, you are your longest and most expensive relationship. So you have to feed into you like you feed into others. You have to be at that point where you know that you are aligned with greatness, as we've been talking about, and having these relationships to say, I am aligned with greatness because I exist, not because I've done the work, not because I have the certifications. They help. Don't let nobody tell you they don't.
Indeed.
But knowing that you are enough just because you exist, that is enough. It's
Yes.
not how much work you do. It's not how much you help people. It's you exist, so you are enough.
Indeed. And so that's the word. So Letty, I see you put the link. I don't know if it's clickable, but
I don't think so.
I will also repost in my stories. This, of course, will be saved on IGTV. And I thank you guys so much for listening. I just wanted to add one more piece to the vision board. So we often talk about, we plan. Many of us plan, but we don't plan in a way that we can see it every day. So the purpose of doing a digital vision board is that you are able to have a finished product that you can have on your phone. It can be your backdrop of your phone. So it's something that you're constantly seeing so that you can work towards for the rest of the year. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why we decided to do it in this format. So I thank you all again for riding out with us for an hour and almost a half. Um, And Leisha, thanks, girl, for coming on.
I appreciate you, sis. And thank y'all for being here and for the tithes and offerings. Appreciate you.
It was
And
wonderful.
just let us
Hey, look,
know if
I
what's
over
up.
imposter syndrome, and I did it. And look at it.
You did. Not with that filter though, girl. Not with that filter though.
Look, it's real ashy up in this area, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. Night.
Night. Love you.
Love you.